Hey there, it's Susie here. Welcome to this episode of the Her Business Podcast. Today we have a fantastic topic lined up for you, and it's perfect if you're running an established business and you're looking to get out there more with your message, but maybe you find yourself rambling or losing your words anytime you have to speak or present. My guest today is Cat Matson of Impactful Presenters, and she empowers business owners to speak with confidence, authority, authenticity, and most of all with impact. Now, she's a member of the Her Business Network. She's also part of our amazing Marketing Success Mastermind, and she's known as someone who is an accomplished speaker, an MC, a moderator, and she has a wonderful straight-talking realness about her, as you'll get to hear. Now, right now inside the Her Business Network, our community is focused on what we call the people growth zone. And this is an area of business that every successful business has working for them, whether you have one contractor or a virtual assistant or a team of 20 people. Because the people growth zone incorporates how you hire people, motivate them, even how you make decisions as to whether you should shrink or grow. And the reason I mention that is that the people growth zone also relates to your extended team, your suppliers, your consultants, your designers, your copywriters, your bookkeepers, all the people that help you be the best CEO of your business that you can be. And whether you're growing from 100,000 to 200 or 500 or a million, you can only do so much of that growth on your own. And at every point in our business, we need to continue to up-level our skills. And today's guest brings us skills that are so essential if you want to get the word out there far and wide about your business. So let's go ahead and get her on the line. Hey, Kat, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Susie. It's awesome to be here.
It's so great to spend this time with you. I was just explaining how you help business owners and leaders and change makers who ramble and lose their words when they need them the most to speak with more confidence and authority through your programs. And so I want to kick off our conversation today by asking you kind of a big picture question, which is, what does being able to communicate effectively mean? Why does it matter so much to us as women business owners?
I think there's two key reasons, Susie. The first one is, I would say, the obvious one, insofar as when we can't land our message, we can't get new clients, we can't pitch to investors, we can't rock up to a networking function and introduce ourselves with authority, let alone impact. We can't generate that sense of, oh, yeah, I need to talk to that person. She's exactly who I need, or I need to refer her to someone. So there's that kind of outward facing piece. But the more I've done this work, the inner piece is actually where it becomes really interesting, because if you can't articulate who you are, what you do, why you do it, and the value that you bring to other people, then you start telling yourself that maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm making it up. Maybe I don't have the runs on the board that I think that I do have. And for me, it's actually one of those really big issues that we have as service professionals. If I don't make something, if I don't have physical evidence of where I've been, how do I know that I've made an impact? And so that ability to articulate ourselves and to tell our own story is actually that physical evidence. It lets us know, as well as the rest of the world, this is what I do, this is why I do it, and this is why I add value.
I love that. And I've always said that communication, I think, is one of the key skills that we need to develop as business owners. So whether we're communicating with our ideal clients, our team members, our prospects, our investors, whoever that is, what is the impact on our business growth that you've seen doing this work for as long as you have that should make being able to speak clearly a top priority for us?
The biggest impact is that ability to go out and attract more clients and grow your business at scale. So I used to rock up to networking functions and I would watch those guest speakers, and they would be charismatic and they would be on message and they'd have a really clear path of how they've added value. And I'd sit there and go, not only do I want what they've got, but also I want to do what they're doing.
Right.
And when you can do that, whether that's in front of a networking function of 20, 50 people, whether it's on a big stage at a convention, or whether it's just these days on Instagram Reels or on Facebook Lives. It lets you get more clients. It lets you build your profile, and it lets you do those things at scale. You don't have to do a one-on-one phone call. You can reach hundreds of people at once and then invite them to come and play.
And I've often heard women, even in our community, say, "Oh, I don't feel good about doing a Facebook Live or running a webinar or getting on stage or doing anything that has me be more visible." And we could do a whole episode just on visibility, but I want to talk about that other feeling that can often accompany being asked to speak or getting the courage to speak. And that is that feeling a little bit like an imposter, especially when we're put on the spot to speak. And for anyone who's listening who might be wrestling with that kind of fear, what are some of the tips that you could share to help her shake off that imposter syndrome and communicate with some self-assurance?
That's such an awesome question. And I talk about imposter syndrome all of the time. So the first piece is to have what I call the earn the right, which is very similar, Susie, to your connection statement, where it's that notion of who are you? And I often tell people to start with their name, because even when you're nervous, you can remember your name.
Let's hope so.
And as funny as that sounds, when we are nervous and when we're battling with that imposter syndrome, just being able to get some words out that reassures our body that we've got it under control is useful. So you start with your name. You then move into what you do and why you do it, which is very similar to your connection statement. The next piece, though, is what I call the brag bag stories. Now, I can't take credit for brag bag stories. It comes from a book called Brag, The Art of Tooting Your Own Horn Without Blowing It by Peggy Klaus. But she talks about having like a bag, like a duffel bag or a carpet bag full of the stories that are that evidence that I was talking about before of what you've done, why you've ended up where you've ended up, and how that all kind of connects. So my recommendation to women who don't like standing up and don't like being put on the spot is to just start filling out your brag bag stories and have a handful of stories that you can literally just pull on any time. It does two things. First of all, it actually reminds you, you know what? I do know what I'm talking about. I do have runs on the board. I do have some credibility.
Right.
But the second thing it does is it builds rapport. And so when you can build rapport with your audience, whether it's an audience of one or an audience of hundreds, through your stories, people are going, "Oh, yeah, that happened to me too. Yeah, I understand. That makes sense." So
I love this. Now, I just want to, just for those listening, because this is an audio medium, you said earn the right. So EARN. The right. So we're earning the right to be here on stage, to take up space, to share our message. And would you just give us those? I think there were 3 components. I might have missed one. Would you give us those components one more time?
So the first part is your name. Hi, I'm Cat. The second part is the what you do and why you do it. So in a business context, mine is I'm the CEO and lead facilitator of Impactful Presenters, working with business owners and community leaders to speak with authority, with confidence and with impact so they can make their dent in the universe. Then the next part is your brag bag stories. Now, these can come from anywhere. They can come from anywhere. They can come from your childhood. So, for example, I started to learn to speak on the debating team in years 9 and 10. I then, one of my first jobs was then as a character waitress. So that's how I learned how to perform. Your brag bag stories don't have to be directly linked to your current profession, business or role. It's more about how they've contributed to your body of knowledge, your body of expertise, your body of wisdom.
Got it. I love it. That's a great, great model. I have spoken to women who've done your programs who have talked about just learning that, let alone all the other wonderful things you teach, has been such a good takeaway. And I know that probably about a year ago now, I was given a bigger presentation than I had done in a long time. We'd been in the pandemic. I hadn't stood on a physical stage for a long time. And I started to get the jitters a little. And I came to you and I said, okay, just help me out here. I just need somewhere to start. And I found that really, really helpful. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, sometimes we have got so much to say and it's hard to boil it down to just a few things. And so what we end up doing is we end up rambling and oversharing and overtalking. Are there any easy tips or tricks that you have up your sleeve to help our listeners avoid that rambling and to really hone in on the core part of their message.
Yeah, it's a big one. I reckon every second person I speak to says that their biggest issue with speaking is rambling. They think out loud. They try to get to the point. The more they realize that they're not landing their point, they think out loud even more, so they ramble even more. My tip is to actually think of a lake that is covered in lily pads. And what you're imagining is that you're standing here on one side of the lake with your audience, and they currently think, feel, and believe about the topic, whatever it is that they think, feel, and believe about the topic. And you want to take them to the other side of that lake. Now, what we do when we are excited, when we're enthusiastic, when we're passionate, we often try to jump them across the entire lake all in one fell swoop. And that doesn't work because they're actually standing on this side of the bank going, I can't jump that far. My feet are going to get wet. I'm going to fall in. I don't understand what you're saying. Whereas if we think about all of the lily pads that are sitting on this lake and we ask ourselves, what is it that this person, what is it that this audience needs to hear now to take the next step? And then what would be the next step? And then what would be the next step? Now, what this kind of model forces us to do is actually get out of our own head of all of the stuff that we know about this topic and actually ask ourselves, what does my audience need to hear? They don't need to hear our 25 years of experience. They don't need to hear all of the reasons. They need their next step. And so we need to check in with almost imaginatively asking ourselves, what is it that they're currently thinking about this topic, and then how do I move them through one step at a time? And sometimes you can take them on a whole lot of lily pads because they're fast learners or they're already on the way. Other times you just might need to do one very small lily pad at a time and actually give yourself space for a conversation that might take place over days or weeks. I think the biggest thing that we actually get caught on is thinking that this is our only chance. This is our only opportunity to get everything across.
If I don't do it now, then, and more is better. I love what you're saying there, because there's a level of consciousness and self-awareness that you're inviting us to have as speakers. And that I remember many, many years ago hearing that, we think it's about our content, and often it's about really understanding the context of what is happening right now. What does that audience need? Do they need that one little lily pad, or can they scurry across a few? Most likely they're not going to be able to jump from one end to the other. And so just being conscious that when we are on a stage, whether it's a virtual stage, whether it's a small group, whether it's someone in your living room, is that it's not about us. It is about them. And I think that's a really great turn, which may deal a little bit with the next thing I'm going to ask you about, but it may not. And that thing is nerves. Now, no matter how many times I've been on stage, I still get a little jittery before I go on. And I know my story. I know I've got runs on the board. There's all that. But sometimes I can just get a little nervous. What are your go-to, even if you do still get nervous these days, what are your go-to methods for staying calm and keeping your thoughts together, making sure that your message comes across and intended and it's not marred by your nerves?
Yeah. So, yes, I do still get nervous. And the first thing that I actually remind myself is that it's a physiological response. It is not a reaction to me not knowing enough, not being good enough. It is a physiological response to all of the things. We don't walk around on a stage in stilettos, bright lights, hundreds of people. Well, no, I don't. That's not our day-to-day. Yeah. And so when we're in that unusual environment, it can be nerve-wracking. So what I do is before I hit the stage, I actually just pause. I try to close my eyes. If I can't close my eyes, then I'll just find a quiet spot to sit and just breathe and breathe really deeply, like belly breath breathing. Because when we're nervous, the adrenaline kicks in where we hit fear, fight or flight. And so we start breathing up here, which actually perpetuates the nerves. That breathing up here actually perpetuates you're under risk. You can't breathe anymore. Yes. You better, you're under threat. So big, deep belly breaths. I also then ask myself, what is the one thing that I can do right here, right now to be of the greatest service to my audience? So I connect with my audience. It's not about me, it's about them. And I remind myself that I have my structures for impact. I have my earn the right. I know my call to action. So I just remind myself that I have everything ready to go, and it's not about the words, it's about the essence of my message, and the essence of my message is about being of service. But it's the breathing that is the first piece.
Oh, I love that. I'll take a deep breath as you speak. Now, of course, there's the the inner game. On this show, we talk about the inner and the outer game of doing business, and similarly with speaking and presenting, we've talked a lot about the inner game, and being present and being there for them, and what we need to do internally to prepare ourselves. But there's obviously a whole lot of skills that you teach inside of your Impactful Presenters program that are actual skills to drill and practice and become, unconsciously competent with, in that they start to become automatic after a while. And by the time that this episode is airing, you will have just closed an opportunity for women to join you inside the Impactful Presenters program. So if you're listening and this all sounds like, yes, I want to do more of this, just know that we're going to give you some details so that you can learn more about how you can work closely with Cat in the many different ways that she serves her audience. But I know that you have... Well, tell us, before I ask you the next question, tell us, what are some of the skills that you teach inside the program that are essential, not only for being a great presenter, but in using your presentations to grow your business?
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the earn the right, and that becomes a piece that we dive really, really deeply into throughout the program. I also talk a lot about structures for impact, and similar to that time when you said, I'm about to do a big presentation, how do I pull it all together? So the structures for impact not only help you line up all of your thoughts, but it helps overcome that notion of speaker's block, and also ensures that everything that you're saying is actually leading to your outcome. I talk about how to be spontaneously confident. So how do you actually use those frameworks to grab an opportunity that might literally be thrown to you with 2 minutes notice? I've had plenty of those opportunities in my life, and I'm so grateful that I can take them. We talk about speaking to small audiences and to virtual audiences, because there is a particular skill now that we've all become very au fait with showing up on video calls, but are we effective on video calls? And there is a whole set of technique around how do you engage in an online environment. We also talk about big stages and how do you command your audience. And through the coaching in the program, we also spend a lot of time on refining message, because everyone's message is different. And one of the things that I find is people come to the program thinking that I'm going to teach them a whole lot of formulas and they're going to become like a TED speaker. And I'm like, no, you need to be authentic. You actually need to be able to back this up on a daily basis. This is your business. So we actually work through the frameworks and how to craft your messages, building on your strengths as distinct to the person next to you. So
I love that, because really I know some of the best presentations I've seen have not necessarily been the most polished. They haven't had all the tips and tricks. They didn't have all the technology. They didn't have but they were just so compelling and so authentic. And and that's what I know that you teach. So can you give us an example of a success story, someone who you've worked with who's really now thriving when it comes to delivering their message, and ideally someone who's a business owner who's using the ability to speak and communicate as a way to grow her business?
So Julia Watts comes to mind from the pattern room and the sample room. When Julia signed up for the program, she was well known in her industry. She does amazing work in encouraging Australian fashion designers to manufacture and design back here onshore. What she was watching, though, was other industry leaders who had less experience, less expertise, and less knowledge getting all the speaking spots. And she's like, I don't understand. Why aren't I the one on stage? As she pulled it apart, she said in her opening kind of comments to me why she joined the program, because I speak too much. I bombard everyone with all of my information because I'm so excited about it, and I end up with sweaty palms and just losing my audience. So fast forward just through the 10-week program, she nailed a message, said so much less than what she previously did. Like just calmed it all down. People were like, oh, yeah, I want what she's got. I want to join her program.
I love it.
But then she started getting invited to massive thought leader and industry events, including Melbourne Fashion Week, which just,
Wow.
like you go, well, that's it.
That's it. That's the pinnacle.
And then, just last month, she's come back from Milan where she's spoken at another major fashion industry event. I know.
Love it.
And so what that's done for her business in terms of thought leadership, attracting new clients, but also attracting new credibility. They are changing the way certain elements of the fashion industry work. It's world-leading technology. And because she's now got this ability to sit on a stage, be part of a panel or speak, the world is her oyster. I get chills every time I think about it.
I absolutely love that story. And knowing Julia and knowing, like, she has so much experience. And when we do that, that can also be part of why we feel we have to tell people everything. We have a lot to say. But we can be the best kept secret if we don't find those opportunities to be on the stage. And so you said she was seeing competitors, other people in the industry, perhaps people with less experience, getting those prime speaking spots because she wasn't ready. She wasn't armed with the skills. She wasn't even armed with the bravery and the confidence that I'm sure she got through your program. And now she is on the stages where she needs to be to leverage her business. I absolutely love it. Love it, love it. Yay, Julia.
Yay, Julia, indeed. It's awesome.
Now, one of the things I know that you know is that inside of Her Business every month, we focus in on one of the Her Business growth zones. And these are areas of business that every successful business has working for them. And every year we just focus in on one of these. And as this episode goes to air, we are focusing on the people growth zone. And the people growth zone is not just about the people on your payroll, it is the people that you surround yourself with in order to grow your business. And that can include peers and mentors, allies, suppliers, strategic alliances, clients, and of course, it can include people that you bring on and pay to do certain things in your business. So could you tell us what does team look like for you? And yeah, let's just start there. Like, who is part of your CAT team?
So I have two people who are on payroll, so to speak, and I've learnt through trial and error what works best for me. Yeah. And having somebody who can almost read my mind and not need a lot of detail in my instructions is gold for me, gold, because I'm not good with the detail and in fact, I get very bored with explaining the details. So, Talia has been amazing, and Finn, my podcast editor, he can see where I want it to go and he just makes the magic happen. Then my other people are my support network, and I don't mean just my cheerleaders. I mean the people who will say, hey, Kat, you're going in the wrong direction, or, yeah, I can see that you're working really hard and you need to try this and this and this and this and this as well because what you're doing isn't working. And my biggest group of that is in your Marketing Success Mastermind, which there's no words for the gold that is the magic in that, but also reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'm stuffed right now. I'm at a loss. I don't know what else to do. What have you done here? I think the other thing that just occurred to me to say is I will often imagine what certain people would do here. So sometimes I don't even need to ask the question. I can just say, what would Susie Daphnis do right now? But I can ask you because you're part of the mastermind. But, what would so-and-so do right now? And that just helps open up a completely different mindset and different answers.
I love that because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you go.
The other people part that I've invested heavily in the last couple of years is myself, insofar as my personal maintenance and my personal self-awareness, yoga, meditation, journaling, having conversations with myself when things are going tough. Instead of allowing myself to go down a negative spiral, I'll actually stop and have a conversation with myself and go, what's really going on here? What's the source belief, or what's the source frustration? And then taking the time to either feel the feelings and then move on, or slap myself out of it and move on. Love slap, of course.
Of course.
But being a lot gentler with myself, because business is tough and gentler works better than beating yourself up.
Right. Well, thank you for continuing. I didn't want to cut across what I knew was going to be a very poignant part of this interview, with about how you support yourself. And I think that, whether you're a solopreneur or whether you have a small team, who we surround ourselves with, the longer I'm in business, the more I realize just how important it is to have the right people around us and our relationships with those people. But you brought something home that I think is really important. That is that relationship with ourselves, and being kind to ourselves and encouraging ourselves, not letting ourselves off the hook. I know you and I definitely don't do that, but also giving ourselves that grace that we're all still learning and growing as humans, as marketers, as business owners, as everything. And so I just honor you and I thank you for that response. At Her Business, we have something that we say, which is our tagline, which is do what you love every day. And maybe you just gave us a little bit of a clue of that, but what does it look like for you when you are doing what you love?
It actually looks quite similar to this, just with different people on the screen. As in, I love working out loud. And one of the things that I find in the Impactful Presenters program, particularly when we do the live calls, or even when people are sharing stuff in the Facebook group, we get to work out loud. And when we see other people's challenges discussed and riffed and pulled apart and put back together, we all learn. And it's taken me a while to figure out, but actually I've been doing that my entire life. And whether it's coaching, mentoring, or just facilitating and creating spaces, that's the juice. And doing that within a context where I personally have the space to do that without pressure, as in my time is mine. I'm generally not at my desk now until 10 a.m. I used to beat myself up for that. And I'm like, no, this actually really works for me. I do all of my other stuff in the morning. So yeah, doing what I love is riffing with people to empower them and to have them feel more confident in their context, in their worlds, and having all of that juice happen at the same time.
Cat, it's been awesome speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is our conversation with Cat. And of course, Cat is the CEO and lead facilitator at Impactful Presenters. Now, I love what we dove into today and this importance of effective communication for business owners, and exploring how it not only helps attract clients and grow your business, but it also provides your self-assurance, and shows your credibility. Now, Kat shared some really insightful tips for overcoming imposter syndrome, for honing your core message, and for staying calm while we're delivering speeches or presentations. And remember, communication, I believe, is a skill that can be developed and refined with practice, and it's so important for us as we step more and more into a leadership role in our business. And no matter what type of business you have, if you want to reach more people or get new clients, it takes speaking up. So you may as well hone the skill so that you can speak with impact and get new clients. So be sure to check out Kat's Impactful Presenters course and group. We're going to put the details over at herbusiness.com/232. She regularly shares really great tips for speaking, so be sure to get those dropping in your inbox by subscribing to her newsletter, and you'll find the details, as I said, over on our show notes page. And if you're a member of the Her Business Network, you'll also find her inside the member directory and inside of our group. She's very keen to help you articulate your message better, so do get in touch. Now I want to give a shout out to one of our listeners, and this is Cindy Pham. Now, Cindy was listening to episode 213, which is a great episode. It's called Get Ready to Stand Out in the Crowd, the ultimate steps to being choosable in business. And in that episode, I speak with the wonderful Belinda Weaver of Copyright Matters about how to stand out with your communications and how to be chosen by your ideal clients. Cindy said, my key takeaway to Belinda Weaver's discussion about how to make your business stand out is to build proof into your marketing process by using testimonials, credentials, and industry memberships. So in that episode, Belinda gave us a whole lot of gold, but one of the things she said was that if you can build in authority into your communications by using testimonials or the credentials you have or industry memberships that you belong to, you automatically make your business stand out. It makes you more choosable. So thank you, Cindy, 1, for listening, 2, for leaving us a comment. I love doing this show for you. I love it when I get a comment from you. So if you want to go across to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or review, or you see this episode mentioned somewhere and you can leave a comment, do that. Or you can actually write to me at podcast@herbusiness.com. Once again, I'm going to put the details for Cat's episode over at herbusiness.com/232. That's herbusiness.com/232. If you're new to the show, be sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode, as I mentioned, we'd love to share it with as many women as possible. So share the episode or head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating or review. Join me next time right here on the Her Business Podcast. Bye for now.